Often, we members of the beef industry get so busy taking care of things out on the home operation that we lose track of important issues in Washington that could impact our farms and ranches. That's why the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is truly so valuable. The staff in D.C. work every day to protect the economic, political, and social interests of U.S. cattle producers so we can focus on our own operations. And joining me today to discuss some of those key issues is Ethan Lane, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for NCBA. And Ethan, thanks for joining us here today.
Great to be with you.
Well, we are a few months into President Trump's second term. What are some of the key things that NCBA has been watching and advocating for in this first year of President Trump's administration?
Sure. You know, we have such a long history with President Trump, having done this for 4 years before, obviously having relationships with him and his team in the years when he was out of office, and being able to sort of hit the ground running, knowing what this administration would sort of look like, with that historical knowledge, knowing where they wanted to go from some of the work they did through the America First Policy Foundation, laying the groundwork for this administration, knowing what Congress's intent was with the reconciliation package all the way back to last year. This made the beginning of this Congress much easier in some instances because we knew exactly where people wanted to go. We were able to slot into that, use the tools at our disposal, use our grassroots and our policy book to go after those tax policy wins, go after those farm bill provisions that were secured in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And that was a really successful beginning to this term. Obviously, whenever you have President Trump, you have some crazy Ivans, you have some things that come up that we weren't expecting. And this administration has been great about listening to true industry voices. They've been really good, and they've learned a lot about how to ignore the fake cattle producers on Twitter and the guys who stopped off for a straw hat on their way to the studio, that are always trying to prognosticate about the industry. They have figured out where the real industry is, where the real producers are, and they've looked to us for input on those things. And that's been really successful in navigating these first few months.
What are a few policy wins that NCBA has seen in the past few months?
So first and foremost, those tax policy provisions, the death tax and those different tax 179, 199A, 2032A, some of those different tools that our producers really lean on to try to preserve their operations and hand them down generation to generation. That was really at risk coming into this year if that tax package wasn't renewed. So that was the top priority for us on Capitol Hill. We wanted to hold what we had in the death tax, that exemption level from 2017, over $10 million. We settled at 15 per individual and $30 million for a couple, indexed for inflation, made permanent. In addition to those other tax provisions being plussed up and indexed and made permanent as well, that really moves the needle on producers' ability to look forward 10 or 20 years and really start planning to compensate for those escalating land values and that suite of problems we know are coming whenever there's that generational transfer. We also really were pleased to see all of our farm bill priorities included in there. So full funding for the Animal Disease Vaccine Bank in Manhattan, Kansas, and all the programs that surround that. Full funding for those conservation programs. A fix for that IRA money that was creating some sort of double standards in the EQIP and some of those programs. All of those conservation tools, research money, disaster assistance. We really ran the table as far as the things producers needed from that process, and that's really put us ahead of the game as far as our priorities for this 2-year Congress.
Now, as we focus on the fall and truly wrapping up 2025, which is hard to believe, what are some of the biggest issues you are looking at right now in D.C.?
Well, it's September in Washington, which means it's time to fund the government and it's time to worry about a government shutdown. That's what we do every year this time of year. It's how the leaves are going to change. And right now we're working through that process. Congress has a couple weeks left to get to a government funding bill. We know that there's going to be that usual wrangling that we see. We also know that Chairman G.T. Thompson needs to do a second farm bill, a skinny farm bill, in order to clean up all the things that didn't qualify for the reconciliation package. By and large, those aren't cattle industry things, that's other parts of agriculture. But that's going to be a pretty tall order, and it's going to occupy a lot of time for Congress here in the fall.
Well, Ethan, thanks for joining us and giving us a brief update on activity out in the Beltway.
Happy to do it.
And as Ethan said, a great way to support your business and your fellow cattle producers out in the countryside is becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org and use that promo code C2C and you'll get a special gift just for our viewers.